So it's that time of year again. The holidays are rolling around, and that means that a lot of new people are going to be picking up drones. And whether you get it through a gift or you decide to buy it yourself, and whether you get this guy, the DJI Air 2S, the brand new Mavic 3, or the long-standing DJI Mini series, it doesn't really matter if you don't know how to fly it and get good shots out of it. So regardless of which drone you pick up this holiday season, I'm gonna teach you guys my 3 secret tips to make sure you guys get better drone shots. Let's get into it. Okay, so tip number 1 is lighting. And if you don't take anything else away from this video, then this is the most important thing that you need to remember. Lighting is everything. It can literally transform a very basic, normal looking shot into something super cinematic. So my tip is you should usually try and shoot around sunrise or sunset. And we call this golden hour for a reason. And the whole reason you want to shoot during these periods of time is because the sun is closer to the horizon, meaning it's lower to the ground. And because of that, it creates all these dramatic shadows across the landscape. And that really gives an interesting texture and an interesting look to a lot of footage, making it look a lot more dramatic and a lot more cinematic. Whereas on the other hand, if you're shooting in the middle of the day, and the sun is at the top of the sky or in the middle of the horizon or whatever, and everything is super well lit up and super bright, your footage is gonna look really bright first of all, and it's gonna look really flat. It's not gonna be very interesting. So just lighting alone can really transform any footage that you take a look at into something really cinematic, just based on the time you shoot. So in this instant, even the subject doesn't really matter. Good lighting can transform a really dull subject into something really interesting and something that you're proud to shoot. Now adversely, if you're someone who's looking for those top-down shots or those eagle eye shots, meaning that your drone is directly looking down from where it's flying, you're actually gonna wanna fly on a really cloudy day, because what the clouds do is they actually block out the sun and all that lighting, eliminating shadows. When you're taking top-down shots with the drone, you actually don't want any shadows, because shadows will really distract the viewer from the subject or what you want to take a look at. So just in case you're someone who's interested more in just recording top-down and just looking straight down with your drone, you usually want to shoot on a cloudy day to actually eliminate lighting. Okay, let's move on to step 2, and that's manual exposure controls. Now every single DJI drone, or any drone for that matter that you purchase, comes by default set to automatic exposure controls, and that's just because not everyone knows how to use them. The drones want to do all the work for you and just make your life easy and make sure you get really good looking footage. Now the downside to automatic exposure controls is that if you're shooting in an environment where there's a lot of changing light, where like one side is really sunny and the other side is maybe a little bit cloudy, or maybe you have your drone looking straight down and you're shooting up and then suddenly the horizon, the sky is a part of your shot, what the drone is going to do is going to try to automatically calculate for your environment, and is going to keep exposing and changing the exposure within your image. And that's going to look really bad, because you'll be able to actually physically see the exposure changing. Now in order to change that or mitigate that, what you can do is you can learn manual exposure controls. Now there are a bunch of other YouTube videos out there, and I have some on my channel as well, explaining how to use manual exposure controls or what the best settings should be for a drone, and I'll link those here somewhere. But basically using manual exposure controls will make sure that your exposure is not bouncing all over the place and will give your image a consistent look, which is really critical if you want cinematic and smooth looking footage. Okay, so moving on to my third and final secret tip for getting better drone shots today is motion blur. And basically motion blur is that natural motion blur that occurs whenever you have movement within your frame, and basically it creates this blur effect, which is what the natural eye sees whenever you look at something that's moving in real life. Now, in order to achieve that effect on a drone or any camera for that matter, you want to follow the 180 shutter rule. And basically what that means is that you just want your shutter speed to be double your frame rate. So if you're shooting in 30 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/60th of a second. Now, for drones, and especially if you pick up something like the Air 2S or the DJI Mini series, and excluding the Pro series, which have variable aperture, these drones are all locked at a fixed aperture, usually f2.8, meaning that usually if you bring your shutter speed all the way down to that level, your image is gonna be pretty bright. Now, in order to fix that, you can pick up something like this, and these are just ND filters, and I have another video on my YouTube channel explaining how ND filters work and what they do if you're interested in learning more in depth what these things do. But I have the ones by Freewell. They work fantastic, and I really recommend picking up a set of ND filters as well. If you're looking to achieve like natural motion blur when flying close to the ground, it'll really elevate your footage again and make it look super cinematic, which is kind of the whole point of this video, to get you guys to that next level and make your drone footage look really, really good. Okay, so I know I said that there was only gonna be 3 secret tips, but if you guys stuck around this long in the video, I'm gonna throw a bonus one at you, and that's basically multi-directional flying. Now, a drone shot is gonna look a lot more interesting and a lot more dynamic when there's a range of movements involved in a singular shot. So maybe you're moving up and flying forward and tilting the gimbal down at the same time. So basically introducing a lot of different movements rather than just flying straight, which can sometimes get boring. I'm not saying there's no place for straight shots. I do them all the time. They look super cool when done right, but you don't want to have all your footage of just you flying straight. So it's a really good idea to incorporate some kind of dynamic shots into your footage while flying drones. Obviously, this is easier with FPV drones, but if you're flying a traditional camera drone, try and mix in a bunch of different movements and your footage will definitely look a lot better. And that's it for this video, guys. So hopefully if you guys are picking up a new drone this holiday season, or if you already had one and you were struggling to get better looking footage, then this video helps you out. And as always, if you guys learned something, hit that like button, smash it. It really helps out that video. If you guys enjoy drone photography, all those kind of things, then definitely subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have for this one. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, keep creating.